There we go, we're good. So I'll do a separate intro to this just to explain what the hell's happening, because or else we'll just be here, be like, what? Who are these people? Hello, folks. My name is William, and welcome to today's very special interview. It's with a great friend of mine, Brian Maitland.
Actor.
Brian's a big creator on TikTok, but also a singer and an actor, who more recently appeared, albeit in a minor capacity, in Tim Burton's Beetlejuice Beetlejuice.
What the
I know, it's amazing, isn't it? This is why today's interview is a real privilege beyond belief and very exciting as well. Brian and I are friends in real life, our friendship especially growing from collaborations on my YouTube channel, as I'll get into in this discussion. On the subject, feel free to follow Brian on TikTok, that's Scottish Brian, and to see more of my content in the future. You're more than welcome to like, share, and subscribe to my channel, hitting the notification bell to get notified on all updates as they come through in the future. The centre focus, however, is Brian's role in Beetlejuice 2's penultimate scene, as one of 6 undead members of an orchestra, accounting for mere minutes of screen time, but Brian got his close-up and the blocking means you notice him among his bandmates featured in the background with all the major stars of the movie there. Oh, this was such a rich opportunity to cover Brian's work on this movie. You be proud, Scottish Brian, you be proud. And so without further ado, let's talk to Brian Maitland today.
It's showtime.
So hi, Brian, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking.
Lovely. I'm great as well, thank you. Yeah, so now the story is basically, for anyone who doesn't know, you and me, we've worked on some stuff together on my YouTube channel a little bit, but something that I do, I'm trying to do like movie reviews or TV show reviews, currently. And sometimes what I've done in reaction to that programming is usually it's just me, but sometimes I've called on some people to not be themselves in the video, but to play like comedic characters in the project. And you, Brian, you're somebody who you were able to play 2 different characters in one of my videos.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's, the connectivity there. I put out a call and you were like, I can do this. I was like, ooh, sweet.
I believe I was actually visiting Aberdeen at that time, and it just happened to be the area, so I was like, well, why not? Why not?
Yeah, basically, yeah. But that's more the personal, like, connection, like friendship, working relationship that you and I have. But today, that's just to set the stage. But today, we're going to talk about Beetlejuice Beetlejuice or Beetlejuice 2, just because it's easier to say. But yeah, so even though, because you were in that movie in a very, in a very minor capacity, but it's wonderful.
Very minor capacity, very minor.
But it's important to note that. But it's like you were there, you were actually a part of it, so that's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to talk about that, and I think because that movie, what year was that movie shot again, or when were you doing it?
When I was in production with it, it was 2023. I don't know if they were if there was any filming done after 2023 or before 2023, but certainly when I was there, it was 23.
No, I just asked because I remember we'd filmed some cutaways from my review of Power Rangers for the first season, and we were doing that in 2023, and then my video came out about 12 months after that. Interestingly, that's when the movie came out. So yes, Brian, that's your feature film debut. But just remember something. I gave you that internet like debut as well, long before that.
Yes, my one internet debut.
Yeah, well, no, I mean that's the thing is that you're an actor, but you're also a big TikToker. So it's obviously I wasn't making a movie, but even then it's like you were featured on YouTube in a way, because of that project. But my Power Rangers review series that came out all through August. It was like one big video which I released and then released it in multiple parts again after that. But I think September 1st was the last video I uploaded that you were a part of. And interestingly, I think the 4th of September 2024 or near to that, 4th, 6th, that's when Beetlejuice 2 came out. So, woo, right next to each other.
I have actually been on YouTube many times before. I actually had my own YouTube channel.
Yeah.
When I was a lot younger. That was my first foray into content creation. Actually, no, that's Cap. No, My first foray into content creation was when I was 11 or 12, and I uploaded movies from the Lionhead video game of the movies and uploaded them to their website. And that's how I got into video production, video editing.
Oh,
And when I got to the age where I was able to put my face online, I started making YouTube videos. Not to any success. I think I had about 1,000 subscribers, none of which actually watched any of my videos.
welcome to my world.
And I just made crap, man. I just made absolute crap.
Well, I think there we'll talk about that, but I think for one thing with social media, I think you're not able to have it until you're like 30, and I don't know if that's still the case, but
I believe I'm not sure what the YouTube terms and conditions are these days, but I'm pretty sure you have to be 13 to upload.
yeah, because when we were kids, because I'm 28 now, and you're a bit older than me. You're how old are you again, Brian?
18.
Yeah, good one. Good one. You're like 30 something now. I
Okay.
don't know. But anyway, no, yeah, I think when we were growing up it was 30 and that you would be the right age to create one. But I mean, yeah, so no, 11, pretty crazy. Like I took my first steps into a larger world.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
I think these days, technology is so easily accessible to
Yeah.
anyone. I think, yes, I think you have to be at least 13 to, I think you have to be at least 16 to be able to post videos publicly on TikTok, I believe.
Mhm.
But you still see kids just posting shit everywhere.
Yeah.
Like age ratings, age censorship it's so ineffective.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as I was going to comment on that, saying about how, like, those are the rules or even the laws which they're trying to change or whatever now. But I think, yeah, even though that's the case, it doesn't mean people follow it. And that's why all that stuff just is there.
We just don't follow it.
I was going to say it slips through the cracks, but no, it's like flooded. It's really a big thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's like a bit of background on you and I. But yeah, that's some details on how we know one another and how we've collaborated, because of that. But going back to Beetlejuice 2. So Brian, big question I have is, what was your experience like working on Beetlejuice Beetlejuice? And that's from the audition to the final product.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I think it's probably one of the greatest things I've ever worked on.
Mm.
I have to preface this though. I wasn't a huge role in Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. I was on set for I think 2.5, 3 weeks, I think, something like that. And my involvement with the film was tiny. It was tiny. That being said, for me, it was huge. It was a really, really big experience for me. And in terms of how it's changed my brain chemistry, I think the main things it's done for me is show me that I want to do this again in my life. Like not to the extent of the minor role I was doing, but I want to do it like big. Like I want to do roles with lines and stuff. I didn't have any lines in this film. But yeah, what do you want to know?
Well,
That I'm allowed to say that. I'm allowed to say, by the way.
yeah. Yeah. That's the thing is there's two things there is that even though you were there for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it is, even though for you it was a big role, but in the grand scheme of the film it is very small. That kind of interests me more, like personally, because like not everybody can be a big huge star, but it depends. Like sometimes personally, those are the sorts of people that I kind of am more interested in because they're not that big. And it's just more interesting hearing not underdog stories, but just not just hearing from the same kind of echo chamber in a way of like the big names in Hollywood or whatever it is.
I will say there's some things I can't say. There's some
Correct.
things I can't say. But what I can say is my own individual experiences that I had. But yes, any questions you got for me, William?
How did this opportunity come up? Really, is a question I can ask.
Well, I got it through an extras agency. Now I don't do extras work at all. It's not something I enjoy doing. It's not something I ever aspire to do. But when I first moved to London, 3, 4 years ago, I was looking for work. I was just looking for any work. So I signed up for extras agencies because, like, shit, dude, I need to make rent. So let's just throw my name and email in literally every direction. And I would get lots of emails from lots of things being like, "Oh, are you available this day for this job?" And I was like, I don't even remember signing up for this. But one day, got a phone call from one of those extras agencies and said, "Are you able to look like you're playing violin?" And I'm like, "Yes, actually." Because when I was at drama school, I tried to learn how to play the violin. I didn't. I was terrible at it. And on my profile, on this one extras agency, I wrote down violin basic, like just basic violin. And it was that specific skill they were looking for this film. They were looking for, of what I understand, they didn't want someone that knew how to play violin because that costs money. That costs a lot of money to hire a musician in for the day. But to hire in some loser that could pretend he's playing violin, but to do it like convincingly. I think that was exactly what they were looking for, and I got the phone call being like, "Yep, production want you. Can you be at the studio in 2 days?"
Sorry, I am listening to your story, but Brian, no, you are not a loser. You're a winner. Like you achieved something.
Well, I mean, if you want to call that achievement, sure.
Yeah, no, you got somewhere. Yeah, I think I should say two things. That obviously we're both Scottish, you and I'm still living up in Scotland. But like I'm from the northeast of Scotland, and I know that you went to secondary school in that kind of a region, but you'd studied drama in Glasgow, and you're in London for work. Because that's like the place you go if you want to get acting work. That's like the biggest place in Britain, at least.
Biggest place in Europe, I would say.
Europe, excuse me.
Biggest place in Europe.
Hmm.
I'm from the Highlands originally.
Yeah.
I moved down to Aberdeen for secondary school. Went to college in Aberdeen. Went to both undergrads in Aberdeen, actually. I got two undergraduates. But yes, I did my postgraduate in musical theatre in Glasgow.
Hmm.
Spent 2 years in Glasgow, then decided to, go straight for the big leagues in London.
Well, you want to aim high, which a lot of people do, and it's actually paid off for some people, or they get somewhere, but then they have to because acting is a job. It's something that you do for so long, and then it's like, okay, I need to go and more
I
work.
know, I know plenty of people. Though again, I should preface, I've not made it. I've not made it yet. I've
No,
not made it
no,
yet.
no,
But
but you're in the pro. You're trying.
I'm in that category that you said. I
Yeah,
am trying to make it. I'm trying to make
yeah.
it. I know plenty of people who have come down to London, who have decided, all right, I've done my time in London. Let's move back to Aberdeen, move back to Glasgow, go back up to Manchester, wherever the hell they're from. It's a very common thing. No one moves down to London to be forever in London,
Hmm.
with a few exceptions, of course. But the vast majority of London isn't actually from London, which I think is a fantastic thing about this city. Like I was in London for Christmas, and the tube on a weekday, just before Christmas, was empty.
Ah.
Like on a weekday morning, when it's supposed to be busy, it was supposed to be full of people. It was empty, completely empty. London is just full of people from other corners of the world.
Mm.
Other corners of the world that celebrate Christmas, I should say.
Yes, yes, yes. But are you okay with London now, Brian? Because I think if I'm okay to say, I think I remember you saying that you didn't like it, or at least you would have preferred. Because I think you just prefer Scotland.
I prefer. I mean, like I'm Scottish through and through.
I
Like I've got a
Yeah.
Scotland flag over there, which I would grab and start waving for you. But
As it the Royal Banner of Scotland or the St Andrew's Cross, also known as the Saltire?
the Glasgow to me was felt more like home. I think I've never felt home like Glasgow.
Yeah.
It's a big city, which I like. It's not too big, which is London, but Glasgow's big enough that like it's got everything that you'd want to do. Got in just the right amount of entertainment. Transport links are fine, but London is very big. It's very expensive, and there's no time to rest. There's no time to rest here in London.
Mm.
Like after this phone call, I'm actually going back to my old flat to clean it up and get some last bits over. The mess behind me is we've just moved house. Like that's my Switch there, just lying on my Xbox instead of neatly put in a nice place.
Yes, yeah.
It's also my PS2 there as well.
No, I just think because for me, I think because Glasgow's a place I really love as well, do enjoy it a lot. But I think even if I was like working, I mean, most people live where they work. It depends. But like, I would have to like somewhere at least well enough for me to be there. Otherwise, I would really just hate it. Perhaps it's just the way my mind works or the way you described it. But
I think as well, it's about making it yours, making
aha.
it something that you enjoy.
Mm,
Um, just because I don't enjoy just because I don't love London at the moment, doesn't mean to say I won't. I'll remain that way in the future. I might get the dream acting jobs that I've always craved. Tim Burton bumping me up to the lead in his next film or whatever.
Hmm.
Um, and like I get such a big salary that I'm able to live in a nice area and a nice house. I'm able to afford the ULEZ charges, get a Tesla. Then I think I'd probably enjoy it more. They say that money doesn't buy happiness, but it does. I would rather cry in a Tesla than cry in my £1,000 a month flat.
Yeah, no, that's a good that I mean that's a good way of thinking about it, honestly. You probably didn't expect me to say that or wish I hadn't said it. But yeah, I think this is where there's a bit of a separation. And you mentioned Tim Burton again, which I have a question about, Mr. Burton. But yeah, I think this is where I think it's different for people nowadays, but like for some people they do what they do creatively or whatever it is, not for fame or fortune, but because they love it and because they want that to be their job.
Not for fame or money, just as a lifestyle. That's what we want to do as our job.
But you want to be good at what you do and be recognized for it. And you do want to, this is a job, I do what I do and I make my money and I live from it, because it just is the way it is.
Mhm.
But what was it like? Just like, did you interact much with Tim Burton as like himself on set, or what was it like seeing him working away?
Tim is a very talented person. Very, very talented person and knows what he wants. He's got a vision and he doesn't let anyone get in the way of that. You can tell when he's deep in thought.
Hi, Tim.
This is Tim Burton.
Tim, you've got such talent.
And when I was on set, try to be very careful about what I say here, just so I don't say anything I shouldn't. All positive things, I should say. All positive things. But I still need to be careful. Standing on that balcony with the rest of my band and seeing one of the greatest film directors in the world do his thing was an incredible experience that I would have paid money to be there for. I would have paid money to see Tim direct. So getting paid to see Tim direct was something else, man. That was something else. Yeah. He's an incredible person.
No, he is. No, he wears lots of stripy socks as well. That's like that's a comfort thing. I know.
Striped socks felt more grounded. I was feeling very crazy, floaty or whatever. Striped socks felt calmer and grounded.
It likes
I wasn't wearing my glasses during that, so I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter, but yeah, no, that sort of leads to another question in a way, because I'll say, Brian, that we met up in real life a few months ago, or this was back in September last year when the movie came out, and we talked a wee bit about that, but that was a question that was on my mind, just, asking about seeing him working away on set, because as I say, this is a job. I think some people look at filmmaking as this magical, mystical thing that people do out in the ether, but it is work and it's hard work, and you'll see that reflected in everybody, like how they, what they've got to do, the amount they've got to do, and how they react to stuff as well. And you're just like, this is real, and you're just like, oh yeah, everyone's reacting like a normal human being, sort of. And that's reassuring in a way, because it's just, this is work and we have to hit a target. But so when it comes to the original film, though, just going back a bit, are you a big fan of the original film, or a big fan of Tim Burton in general?
I like the original Beetlejuice because the main characters, the ghosts, are the Maitlands.
Yes.
And it's the first time that I've heard the Maitland name being used in popular media.
Ooh la la, what do we got here? The Maitlands, huh?
So that's my connection to them. I don't know why. Was it Tim Burton that wrote the original Beetlejuice? I can't remember now. But I'm not sure. No, he just directed it, didn't he? Yeah. So the scriptwriters for the first Beetlejuice, I'm very confused why they chose Maitland as the last name. It's not a name that's used very much at all. Because the Maitlands they're a very, very minor clan in the Scottish Lowlands, north of England, Scottish Lowlands. And Yeah, I mean, you hear names like Mackenzie, McDonald, MacArthur. I don't know if that's even a Scottish name, but I think that's an Irish name. But like, you hear these names being thrown everywhere in media. And then for me to stick Beetlejuice 1 on one day and hearing the name Maitland, I'm like, Maitland mentioned, let's go, let's go.
Well, we got the Maitlands. I think they've had enough exercise for tonight.
So for egotistical reasons, I guess that's the reason why I like the first film, because yeah, and also just as a story, it's great. It's great.
Yeah, no, I just asked because I wondered what your relationship with the original film was in a way. And I'll say that with my own name, changing the subject for a second, because Hayward I found is an English second name, even though I'm from where I'm from. But like, I've got a similar story. It's with Doctor Who. It's with one episode exactly where there was a character. It's in the Matt Smith era. There was a Lucy Hayward. I was like, ooh, Hayward, So it's kind of the same sort of idea there.
You got it.
And then again, where you have the same reaction, like, that's my name.
My name is Lucy Hayward, and I'm the last one left.
It's like when you're a child and you watch a cartoon and there's a character that shares your name and just extreme excitement. I remember, do you remember Beyblade, the original anime Beyblade?
Yeah, I didn't watch it very much, but I know what you mean, of course, yeah.
In the first series, the second last bad guy in it is called Brian, like towards the end, and I'm like, I've spent so much of my life, so much of this year watching this anime, waiting for one of the guys to have my name, and it's the second last one, and I'm like, I mean, total dick though. Like he's not a nice person at all.
No.
But like he's called Brian. That's great. Unfortunately, it's Brian with a Y, so technically doesn't count. But
Yeah, it's not 100%, but yeah, there's something there. Yeah, they did make Beetlejuice into a cartoon, which I've only ever seen the intro for, but I think, like a lot of things, because I'm wearing my Ghostbusters t-shirt, and there's a reason why, which I'll explain shortly. Partly because I don't have a Beetlejuice t-shirt, but also, I think when the original film came out, it was in the wake of Ghostbusters, because Ghostbusters was 1984, and then Beetlejuice is 1988, I believe, and it's kind of another supernatural comedy.
Beetlejuice! Oh, no! I am utterly alone.
And there's lots of, like...
I don't think we survived that crash.
When you have one of the biggest comedies of all time being Ghostbusters, I think there was an attempt to make another one of those, and Tim Burton ended up doing it, but...
I've seen The Exorcist about 167 times, and it keeps getting funnier every single time I see it!
With this movie, with the original film and Beetlejuice 2, I don't believe Burton wrote the film, where it was written by, in both cases, a team of writers, different team, each time. But, it doesn't mean that a director doesn't put their own stamp onto it, because you don't write a movie, you write a script, and then the director takes hold of it and it kind of turns into a different thing. So I think Tim admitted on the Blu-ray to Beetlejuice 2, which I have over in the corner, was watching that. I think he didn't quite understand what made the original film successful in a way, because it's a unique movie and I've only ever seen it a couple of times, because for me personally, I love Tim Burton, but I'm more a fan of Nightmare Before Christmas, which he didn't direct, but it's his kind of German expressionist kind of vision of film. So you see that and you're like, that's Tim Burton's style, even if he didn't actually direct anything. But, that and Edward Scissorhands, Batman Returns, and people hate the Johnny Depp Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. It's one of my favorite.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, there's problems with it for sure, but it's one of my favorite books. And
I think if you try and compare that film to the original Gene Wilder film,
yeah,
like of course it's going to be terrible. But if you look at it as a fresh take on the tale of the book, the Roald Dahl book, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. But I mean, nothing can supersede the original.
No. Well, also, because I say it's one of my favorite books, and I think also it's the fact that I was like 8, maybe 9, when I saw the Tim Burton Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and I kind of think that what one movie does wrong, the other does right as far as adaptations go. So both movies are fine by me. I think if you want a more faithful take on the book, then it's the Gene Wilder film, but yeah. I'd just sort of say to myself, I'd rather just sit and read the book. I don't want to watch the films. Because it's important.
Actually, I rescind what I say. I think I do think the Johnny Depp one is more entertaining. I would say it's more entertaining. But in terms of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory as a story, the Gene Wilder one is superior, I would say.
Yeah.
Again, I think they're both fantastic films in their own right.
Yeah, I do appreciate that the songs in the Burton film are from the original book, whereas in the Gene Wilder film they took more creative liberty with that. So as a fan of, again, as I say, as a fan of that kid's book from my childhood, it's nice to hear all that. Like, I really love that. But going back to Beetlejuice, yeah, it's a film that I do really love. Like, I love Michael Keaton's performance as that character. But, again, I haven't seen it enough to my dismay, because the original film's a really good movie, and this film is also really entertaining because it did have these kind of unfiltered Tim Burtonisms, like when Danny DeVito turns up, you're like, it's the Penguin, from Batman Returns.
I didn't say that.
Yes.
Or to me, he's Mr. Wormwood from Matilda, which again, nothing to do with Burton, but it's still that kind of weirdness that actor brings in any performance that they do.
Yes.
$5,000? I'm not paying it. What are they gonna do? Repossess the kid?
Like, Daddy, that's cheating. Of course it's cheating. Nobody ever got rich being honest.
Daddy, that's cheating.
Of course it's cheating. Nobody ever got rich being honest.
DeVito's great, man. He's great.
Yes, he's so good. But yeah. But did you interact much with the actors directly behind the scenes, or only from afar? That is, if at all. Because I remember asking you about one of the minor characters who played the priest, Byrne Gorman, and I think you said that you didn't see Byrne, or you didn't interact with him at all.
Not that No, I don't. I'm pretty sure I didn't. I mean, we were up on the balcony for many hours, and the stars were all the way down at the other end of the chapel. We got a few, a few arm gestures and stuff to all of them, and yeah, lots of acknowledgement. We got acknowledged. We didn't get ignored. Yeah.
No, it's cool, and that's a good thing, because even though there is a big physical separation between you guys in the location, it's nice that there was that chemistry, in a way, if we can call it that.
From the scene in the film, I don't think the film actually shows just how big that chapel actually was. It was big. It was it wasn't tiny at all. It was probably the size of your local church. And if I hadn't known it was a film set, like if I just woke up there, I would have thought, this is an actual church. Like, it's an actual church. The set design on that film was fantastic.
Yeah, something of note, I was talking to a mutual friend, Ankit Madeira, when we were talking about, it's a Tom Hanks movie, Joe versus the Volcano, and the production designer was Bo Welch, who wasn't involved in this except for as a consultant on the film, but Bo Welch has basically done Tim Burton's movies and Barry Sonnenfeld, who did the Men in Black movies and other stuff, but he also directed Cat in the Hat, starring Mike Myers, and then Bo never went to direct a film again. Which is really sad, because he's an amazing talent, and it's just a shame that he was saddled with that movie.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what your opinion is, but I don't like that film.
All I remember as a kid, I was like, this is freaky as hell. It's freaky as hell. I've maybe laughed a few times in it. But I'll tell you what. It's a film that defined a generation, but not in the way I think it was aiming to.
No. Funny story, though, Alec Baldwin, who's in Cat in the Hat in a minor role, he's also in Beetlejuice as one of the Maitlands in that. So there's a connection there. Another one.
Will you marry me, Joan? Joan.
But yeah, set design was great. It was very, Tim Burton style, and it felt and looked practical. Like, not too much CGI except for when it needed to be like that. It was very real, if we can say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
great production design, Bo Welch.
Woo, thank you, Bo.
I think the scene that you were in, it does have the major players in it, which is a great thing as an actor, like Michael Keaton, Jenna Ortega, Winona Ryder.
Going off of what I was saying earlier, I think, just being there, being in the presence of Burton, being in the presence of these legendary actors. And there was times where it was just myself, one of the other musicians, and the main cast just on set. And to hear the words action and just being one of 6 people in there when the camera went action, I was like, this is the greatest moment of my life right now.
No, it's true though. It gives you that high that you're like, I kind of want to do this forever, kind of thing.
Exactly.
Or that people see this. This is great, But another name I was going to mention. This is not a question for you. This is just a story that I have because Willem Dafoe was also there, or at least his dummy was for that scene part of the time, and also Catherine O'Hara, however we want to say it. But for one of my own stories, because I went to see Nightmare Before Christmas in concert in Glasgow, actually, and it had the cast of the movie there. So I saw for that show. That was amazing. It's kind of my own little mini version of that, as like one of many people in the audience, seeing Danny Elfman on stage and seeing Catherine O'Hara, where it's like they're actually there. This is amazing. We grew up experiencing the stuff that they created. But no, I only asked before. I know I keep going on about this person who you didn't meet and probably don't even know who I mean, but with Bern Gorman, who was the priest in Beetlejuice 2, he has a role. It was in a spin-off of Doctor Who, Torchwood, and so whenever I see him in various other things, I'm like, it's Owen from Torchwood.
Oh my God! What happened?
Because he's also in have you ever seen Johnny English?
Of course.
Yeah, sure. Silly question, but I only ask because he's in Johnny English Reborn, or the second one, and again just in a very small role, probably kind of a similar screen time to this film, but again, for me, seeing him, I'm like, it's Owen again.
They'll enter the manic phase any moment now.
You swine!
But
I mean, you're such a film buff. Of course, you'd catch that. You'd catch that.
Yeah. It's weird, Thank you. But it's nice. It's encouraging because he's somebody who has been in these big franchises, just 2 that I know, or 3, I guess technically. But just the fact that he's still working. Again, not everybody can be a big, huge star, but he's still in stuff. He would turn up and do his thing. But have you kept in touch with could we call them your co-stars, like your the other musicians from the stage, the band? Like, did you get much of a rapport with them, or what was it like, just you guys as a unit? Like, how was that?
We all got on with one another. We all enjoyed everyone's company. We all hung out when we weren't on set. We were each individual one of us was one of 6 blue people there. Of course, we were going to hang out with one another.
Yeah.
We have kept in touch. We still message each other now and then. We're all very, very different people, though. We're all very, very, very different people from different areas of the country. We never got to have that premiere that we so sought after. But, we're all busy. We all do our own things. I'm going off on tour next month. The others they have their own other screen jobs that they're doing. It's one of the reasons I don't enjoy London is just the amount of time there is to actually go and see other people. There isn't an awful lot of it because you're busy making money all the time trying to pay your rent.
Yeah, that's the way it'd be. And yeah, I think when I ask a question like that, because I've done quite a few interviews like this, or not, because you and I are friends in real life and we've met a few times, more so for work, but you get the idea. Whereas some of the other people that I've reached out to over time, like, I'll ask them questions and I'm not asking like what it was like as if I'm assuming it was bad, like, oh yeah, no, we argued a lot and we stood on each other's feet or whatever. But no, I assume that was the case. But I am really glad to know that that's true. And if there's any like funny behind the scenes scenes stuff about filming that sequence, you know?
There's a lot of early mornings, I'd say that. And sometimes we wouldn't be ready for one another. We wouldn't be ready for one another's behaviors and antics. So yeah, there was a couple of moments of contention, but it was ultimately we're all friends and we were able to handle it and get through to the end of the process. But there's a few early mornings where we're like, not today, please, just not today.
Yeah, because it's that early. Yeah, it's like school or even university, and somebody asks you what you think of this or that. You're just like, I don't know.
Mate,
I'm not here yet.
school and university times are child's play compared to what they have at studio filming.
Oh no, of
I
course.
I was up at 4 a.m. every morning because I wasn't an actual part in the film. I didn't get driven to the studios every day. I had to get the train up 5 a.m. and go into central London and come back out again. Just to get there for I think it was a 6 a.m. start. I think it was a 6 a.m. start if I remember correctly. And then we would get finished to like 6 or 7. Those are
At
killer
night.
times.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know no, I wouldn't finish until 6 or 7. I wouldn't get back to about like 9 or 10 p.m. that night just to do that all over again.
No, God bless you though, Brian. You did it. Did it.
I did something.
But yeah, no, of course. But I'm not comparing the two because for one thing, you know what it's like, and I don't working on a movie set. But I mean, I'm not saying there is any comparison between like the uni days and work and this kind of work. But that's like the closest thing I could possibly imagine. Like the demanding timetable and like constantly hitting a goal daily.
What I will say is a lot of waiting around. There's a lot of around. In fact,
Yeah.
some days we didn't even do anything.
A lot of hurry up and wait, as they call it.
Hurry up and wait. Yeah.
Yes.
Getting rushed through costume, through wardrobe at 7 a.m., 7:30 a.m. Getting all the makeup done, being ready, ready to go 9 a.m. Sat there waiting to shoot, then waiting for lunch, getting lunch, waiting for the afternoon, afternoon snack.
Yeah.
Then we wrap at 7 p.m. It's yeah. And then we get de-wardrobed, de-rigged, and we just get sent away again. Those days where I'm like, you know what, let's just send a cardboard cutout of me and just push it out there while I get my rest back,
Yeah, this is why they did a Madame Tussauds style dummy of Willem Dafoe, where Tim Burton says on the commentary to the film, I believe, now, what would you have done? Would you have had him stand there motionless for 2 to 3 weeks, or would you have rather what would he have wanted? Would you rather him be like a wax figure for as long as he needs to be? And it's like, yeah, option 2 is better, because that's all the scene needs, and it adds to the comedic sort of tone of it, because
he was frozen, like he was
yeah.
frozen in it. I'm gonna let you into a personal secret of mine that I have not told anyone.
Oh,
I thought that wax figure was actually him.
No, it looked amazing. It looked great.
Yeah, well, because where I was, I wasn't wearing glasses. I was like, oh, he's really good at staying still. And then we just carried on waiting. I was like, I don't think that's him. Pretty sure that's not him. And then one of the other guys like, it's because it's a wax dummy. I'm like, right, okay. That's how I figured out it wasn't actually him.
You could be forgiven, and this is something that I learned when we were filming one of our segments for the Power Rangers video, because I wanted you to do a thing with your glasses, and I have, I have a pair of my own. I don't do prescription glasses, but I know you do. But I was asking, these are blue light filter, not real, but I wanted you to just sort of have them just like this, and you told me, you sort of indicated how hard that was, and I was like, are they prescription, Brian? Oh, they are. Okay, don't worry, just wear them like normal. Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Yes. Like one of Alvin and the Chipmunks, maybe?
So, yeah, whenever we film something new and let's just have you wear your glasses or not, let's not have weird in between because it's bad for your eyes. Yeah, but the hurry up and wait thing is a good segue to talk about another topic, not just how the movie industry works, but I think that's why a lot of people don't do this kind of thing, because you have an early start and you go through all this tumultuous stuff to get into your, thing.
We were treated very well.
I'm sure you were.
Very, very, very well. There was a reason I was happy to do the 4 a.m. starts, the 7 p.m. finishes. There was no guarantee that we were going to make it onto the final film. No guarantee. Very good chance. Very, very good chance that we would. But we got treated well on set, and that was the reason why I went back every day. Because I could have easily said, no, go away, because there are so many horror stories from even the people I was with on that platform. So many stories of how people get treated like shit on extra shoots. They get their phones taken away from them. They get still water, and not still, it's like stagnant swamp water to drink, and maybe some bread for eating. They have to wait out in the rain. They've got to wait out in the snow. No charging points anywhere, and they have to wait in their costumes as well, which is like really thin, cheap shit.
Yeah.
Not us. It was it was summer. We had our own trailer for a little bit. It wasn't a trailer per se. It was more of a truck with some chairs in it. We were taken care of. We were absolutely taken care of. And it was that treatment that said, yeah, I want to come back. I want to do it. The times of it were a pain in the ass, yeah, but it was so worth it. So worth it.
You do bring up a good point, because it's something that, even though you did make the final cut, thank goodness, and it's amazing that we have proof of you being there.
Not just the final cut, like 20 seconds, 30 seconds of screen time.
Yeah. You get a close-up, I'll send you a high-res scan of it, basically. You can be like, I could frame this right here. I'll take a transfer. But I want to say that, obviously, you were there, and I know, and even though you're in makeup and costume, it is definitely you, where you'd be like, yeah, it's Brian Maitland.
You know what's funny is,
yeah, go on.
I didn't tell anyone that I was doing this before it got released. When the film came out, I didn't post about it for a little bit, but I got messages from people I hadn't heard from in a while being like, I just saw you in Beetlejuice. And I'm like, that's a great eye you got there. It's a great eye. Considering in the makeup and all that, they figured it out. But I think maybe face shape or something, I don't know. Face shape, hair. My hair is pretty much the same in that. Like, they didn't really do much to my hair.
No.
But yeah, I did get some people recognizing me without me actually saying to them that I was in it. So that's pretty cool.
What's it like, Brian, if you're in something but you're not credited for it? Because I think on IMDb it says that you're a violinist in Beetlejuice, but in brackets it says uncredited. Does that affect anything? Like, are people going to say, well, how do we know you were actually there? Because if you're not really credited in it.
Someone said to me, trying to be shady to me. I had quite a lot of shady people, quite a lot of people being very, very shady about this. You're like, oh yeah, but you weren't in the credits though, were you? Your name's not in the credits. Okay, fine, my name's not in the credits, but my face is on the screen.
Correct.
Yeah, my face is on the screen. I don't care. I really, really don't care. Sure, it might have been nice. I mean, I spent 3 weeks on set, and the guy that drives the bus who's in the credits, like he let's argue about that. But ultimately, I really don't care. Really don't care. It's I mean, I suppose all it's done is push me forward to try and secure those roles, which do get the names at the on the scrolling credits at the end. That would be nice. But I want to earn that place in the credits. I don't want to just have a skill and accidentally get called to studio 2 days later, and then that doesn't deserve a credit. I don't think that deserves a credit. So I'm going to aim for higher. I'll aim for higher next time. But it doesn't bother me.
Well, some people are in stuff and they do their best to not be credited for it, where they're just like, oh, you saw me in that. Oh, that was, like a pre-internet thing, that's like embarrassing or bad or whatever. And you're just like, you have to have a start somewhere in an actual starring role. I mean, like Paul Rudd, who's in one of the Halloween sequels, who basically just acts like a complete brick in the movie. And I love Paul Rudd, but yeah, not his best work, And it's a shame that, lots of comedians have their start in horrible horror sequels or even big superhero guys. and girls as well, actually, now, and you look back and like, is that them? That's weird. But yeah, does that, it's not like a question of like, pride or vanity or anything like that. Not that you would take it to be like that, but does that affect like an agency? Does that affect you getting more work if you can prove or not that you were actually in something?
I have this film on my resume.
Okay.
If it's very rare, or maybe it's not, maybe it is. I don't know the casting director side of things. But generally, as how I understand it, they sort of take information as given. These things are very easy to prove or disprove. If anyone doubts me being in this, because I'm not in the credits, I just have to go to the time code and be like, yeah, that's me.
Here's my high-res scan that my mate sent me. But yeah, I mean, so yeah, Brian, before you become a big star, I better employ you as much as I can so that we can boost one another's profiles, or else I'll have to wave goodbye to you someday. Be like, I can't afford him anymore. He's too big a star.
I'll keep rates low for you.
I appreciated it because that's what you do for me. Yeah. I think though, like talking of hurry up and wait, that's kind of how this whole process was between 1988 and 2024, like getting a Beetlejuice sequel, because I think there were lots of ideas for what the movie was going to be since the 1990s. Like Beetlejuice was going to go to Hawaii, I believe, and it's sort of like, well, what would he be doing there, and what would the story be, and how much screen time would you give to Michael Keaton, who's in both movies barely at all, and he's the titular character. So in a way, your role is sort of in the spirit of Beetlejuice. Like, I'm barely there, but less is more. The juice is loose.
It's not a bad impression.
Yeah, thank you.
The juice is loose.
What was your question? Sorry.
Well, it wasn't really it's more just a comment on, this has just turned into a discussion about it now, but I think like with Beetlejuice, going back to Ghostbusters, which is again another supernatural comedy, my favorite film of all time, by the way, the original film, but
I couldn't tell.
Yes, yeah, with the Crystal Skull vodka, it's Dan Aykroyd's own. I have another over here. That's a Christmas gift. That's the Bonehead skull.
Nice.
Bonehead! Yeah, full of vodka. How nice. 12 international awards, yes. But yeah, even though, because there was a bit of a shift, I think, from the 80s into the 90s, where Ghostbusters is an ensemble comedy, where you do have one main character, technically, and that's Bill Murray's character, but you do have 4 Ghostbusters total, plus other comedians. But I think in the 90s, it kind of shifted, and it was more like having just one person lead the movie, whether it was Jim Carrey or Adam Sandler. Possibly not Michael Keaton, because he is a very funny actor, but I think people remember him more for the darker stuff that he's done with Tim Burton and whatever else,
I suppose you feel better now, sir.
No. Actually, I feel worse.
But that's kind of a leftover thing of that, where it's more like the one big star, one guy being like, "Look at me, I'm funny." That sort of thing.
Nice fucking model!
Because I haven't really watched, I'm not following, straight up comedies nowadays, but the collab effort to be funny is what defines most of the movies that I love, comedies. And, it could go either way today, I think. Something, Brian, because this is a legacy sequel, and obviously there's some people that didn't come back for it, either for legal reasons, because they weren't permitted to return, in the case of one person. But, are you familiar with that? Because if you are, I don't need to get into it. Okay, I don't really want to discuss it very much anyway. But I mean, obviously, with Gina Davis and Alec Baldwin, I think one of them or both of them couldn't return, and even if they could, I think they wrote it so that they wouldn't need to, Obviously, Beetlejuice is a ghost or whatever he's supposed to be.
I'm the ghost with the most, babe.
Not to mention the fact that you're talking to a dead guy. Now what do you think? You think I'm qualified?
But, you're sort of like, why does he look so much older even then?
Kind of a mid-afterlife crisis, I guess.
I actually like, I think Michael Keaton pulls off the look of that character really well with that makeup still.
I'll tell you what, in the original Beetlejuice, I do think he he did look really young. Like he looked really young.
Yeah.
And actually, I think in this film, Michael looked. I think the age that Beetlejuice should be. Like Beetlejuice should have always looked like that.
Roger that.
Yeah, it was an improvement for me.
Yeah, it looked fantastic.
Yeah.
Recognize this, puss.
Never seen that chick before in my life. Or afterlife.
That's also another thing, going back to Ghostbusters, where I think all of those guys were quite old. Like, I know Harold Ramis, who co-wrote the film, I know Harold was 40 when they made the original film. And so, not that 40's old, but like...
I mean, some people are old when they're 40, and then there are people who are 100 who are spry.
It's different than movies now, where, like, the lead actor would be, you'd aim for someone young or younger, because I think Winona Ryder was, like, younger when they made the first film,
A child, for God's sakes.
Wow. But yeah, so there's stuff like that. But obviously, there is a character, Jeffrey Jones' character from the original film, who is not a part of this movie, but his character is like referenced, like sort of sprinkled throughout, and they explain why he's not there, and they work it into the story well. That's kind of the inciting incident, but that's the one aspect of the film I don't like, because I'm reminded of in real life what happened. He basically still works as an actor, but he's turned away from a lot of places, for legal reasons. But, as a movie, because Beetlejuice came out in the 80s and, Jones committed a crime in the early 2000s. So obviously the movies he's known for, he did long before he soiled his own reputation. So I thought to myself, can I still enjoy what little I've seen him in? Well, him as a person, he sucks now, but, looking back at that stuff, can I still enjoy it? Yes, I think I can, because, you need to separate one from the other.
You have to, yeah.
Yeah.
Always separate art from the artist.
Yeah.
That's always been my mantra.
Yeah.
As the years have gone on.
Yeah, it's like, again with going back to Power Rangers, one of the lead actors from one of the later seasons that I watched and loved when I was a kid, Ricardo Medina Jr. is the actor. And Rick Medina was basically, he stabbed his roommate with a katana blade. I know, and obviously, and that's tragic and horrible, but he was in Power Rangers in 2002, 3, whatever it was, and then again years later. So again, that crime was committed after he was in the show. So again, it's like, well, I know that he's off the circuit nowadays, but, that was done. Rick's most memorable roles were done, long before that. So I thought, well, that real world event is bad, but again, I'm able to separate the two. But going back to Beetlejuice, like the movie itself, like that, all that information isn't relevant to the movie, reasons for why people didn't return, like either, okay, we can't allow them here, or, because it would be bad, or they don't want to, or it's complicated, or, I think it's like story reasons for why you can't use them. But, going forwards for like, actors like yourself or content creators like, myself, like that doesn't impede on our, it shouldn't impede on our like consumption of media or creative opportunities that we have. It's like, that's a completely separate thing, and we're able to sort of like forge our own path, in this world.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I absolutely agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's really it for what I wanted to talk about. But yeah, I think it's like talking about the movies, like characters and the way you use them, and you ask questions like what could we do, because and this is where it gets interesting here. If you have a movie, because the original film is called Beetlejuice, and this film is called Beetlejuice, which is a joke on the idea of if you say his name 3 times, he'll come for you or whatever. It's like Bloody Mary or whatever. You say her name 3 times in the mirror and she gets you, or something.
Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice.
And it's like, are we going to do Beetlejuice? Are we going to do a third one?
I don't remember what he said about it. Like if he was even going to be alive to make a third one. I mean, like, would they have to wait another 30 years, 20 years to?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's well longer than that. Then it'd be because it came out in the 80s, didn't it?
88.
Yeah, between 20 and 30 years. Then.
Yeah.
That is why I won't do 2 shows a night anymore, babe. I won't. I won't do.
I don't think. Is there going to be an appetite for a third one? I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't
know.
I mean, I couldn't tell you what Hollywood's going to do in the next 10 years, 5 years. Like, are we still going to have the whole dip into nostalgia to try and make to make money off of nostalgia? I don't know if Hollywood's going to continue to do that because I think people will. I mean, I would predict that we're going to get nostalgia burnout at some point.
Yeah.
I reckon audiences are going to get nostalgia burnout. I mean, there's only so many times you can do remakes or sequels before people are going to start demanding more stories, you know?
Yeah.
The 80s was a fantastic time for cinema. The 90s also good.
Yeah.
But, you know, the turn of the 2010s, you know, we start seeing live actions, HD 3D remakes. Remember 3D was a thing?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad that that trend phased out. I hurt my eyes, but yeah, the I hope we do see a third Beetlejuice. I would love to see a third Beetlejuice. I would love to be in it.
Yeah.
But you know, I don't think that it would happen. I don't think it's going to happen.
No,
what do I
no, I agree, and I personally wouldn't be disappointed if they didn't do a third one because I think something about Hollywood is you do have to adhere to a very narrow line of commercialism.
You have to adhere to a very narrow line of commercialism.
Which just means that, you know, it's banking on nostalgia for people who grew up with the original film or at least who know it very well. And then, you know, people who are growing up now. So it's like it's supposed to appeal to them too. And I think it's one of the reasons they've never made a sequel to The Goonies, because I know Warner Brothers, and this again is a Warner Brothers film, like I think Warner Brothers just don't care. They just don't want to make one, which is weird because I know all the cast want to.
Yeah, it's a fine line. It's a really fine line. We're in different times at the moment. You know, money speaks, commercial speak. It's all about finding the thing that the studios know they're going to make lots of money on.
Yeah. Well, I have a theory that the reason that the Marvel movies, which I don't hate yet, a lot of people gave up hope with them a while ago, but it depends who's making them, in my opinion. But I think the money that they do make will come from the fan base that's ingrained, that's there and always there. But I think you have to appeal to a general audience because if you don't, then you're not going to make as much money otherwise. But I did find the quote from Tim Burton. This is according to Wikipedia, which bear in mind you can write anything you want on Wikipedia.
I sometimes do.
Yeah, well, I have taken to doing a thing where I look at when it was last edited, and according to this, it was last edited 2 days ago, which is a long time in internet time. But anyway, the section about the future of this franchise, it says, though cast members seemed enthusiastic about a potential third film to be titled Beetlejuice, 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 Burton said, let's do the math. It took 35 years to do this.
35 years, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll be over 100. But I guess it's possible with the advent of science these days, but I don't know. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, I know. It's great. It's great. Well, this is the thing. This is one of, I think this is the first and maybe one of the few like legacy films that Tim Burton has done because I don't know about you, but I did see his version of Alice in Wonderland, which I didn't love particularly, and I didn't bother with the second one. But I kind of lost track of what Tim Burton was doing, and then this sort of piqued my interest more because I knew what it was. I hadn't seen it very much, the original Beetlejuice, but yeah. I was like, oh, cool, I'll go watch that. You know, I know what that is. It's like comfort food, like delicious.
You know, like you know what you're gonna get when you see you know, Tim Burton's Beetlejuice, you know, with Michael Keaton, Catherine O'Hara, Winona Ryder. Like you know, Jenna Ortega, you know what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
You know it's gonna be a hit. That it would have been it would have been the greatest film last year if Wicked hadn't come out just at the very end. Fantastic film, fantastic fucking film. What do you know what the final figures were for Wicked and Beetlejuice?
Well, I'll have a quick look because I know it did well, but that's another thing. Box office is determinative. Yeah,
I want to say Wicked smashed Beetlejuice in the box office. I want to say that it did, because I know when Beetlejuice came out, like that, it smashed the box office. It outperformed every other film of the year. But then I think Wicked came out and did not outperform Beetlejuice.
You know, I will answer your question. I'm just checking on my phone here, but sometimes what professional YouTubers do is they'll consult Wikipedia for this sort of information as though it's gospel. And it's like, well, because it is Wikipedia, you know, it's. But I tend to just think, well, the big YouTubers go by that logic. So based on what they're saying, it must be true, or I'm holding it to be true. But anyway, so they spent about 100 million to make the movie, and it made about 451 million, which is a good profit. Like that's a decent amount of money in Hollywood numbers, because they spend their production budget and then they spend like the same amount of money on advertising, or up to the same amount on advertising. So they've more or less spent 200 million on the movie, so they need to make twice that amount to break even. So 400, so if it made like 4 times that amount of money, which it has, plus a wee bit more, then that's a profit. It's not huge, but it's good, you know, for the producers.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let's have a look. I would imagine Wicked smashed it just because
just the hype of it.
Yeah. Well, also it's based on a musical that everyone, even if you've never seen it, which I haven't, I think everyone recognizes that poster.
Yeah.
So Wicked, yeah, so they spent about 150 million and it made almost 700 million. So yeah, it's a you know, noticeable like kick up the backside for Beetlejuice, but you know, yeah, I didn't get round to that movie, but I know there's a sequel coming, but I'll get both of those under my belt and yeah, we'll talk about that one too. Yeah. Well, I've only really just got one other comment because this has become another story, this conversation now. But when it comes to the movies and nostalgia bait and all the rest of it, there is like a cycle of 30 years of nostalgia or so, which this doesn't fall into technically because the 80s was 40 years ago now. But, you know, like borderline 1988, it's almost the 90s, it's the end of the decade. But yeah, I think in the 2000s, the 70s were kind of a thing again, from what I understand. Then in the 2010s or the 80s were obviously huge again, you know, from Stranger Things to whatever else. And now seemingly the 90s are popular again. The decade we were both born in, although I don't remember anything about it firsthand.
Well, it's good to experience the 90s for the first time.
Yes. I sometimes ask like people who are my parents' age what it was like, and they're like, I don't know, I was busy raising my kids, you know, because they weren't young at that time. They'd already grown up like through different decades. But yeah, basically, Brian, I think the nostalgic profitability will continue in this decade. And then I think in like 10, 20 years time, it will probably die because the 2010s will be popular again by the 2040s. And everybody will just be like, yeah, I'm not bothered.
Yeah, that's a transfer.
Yeah, you could do an anti-nostalgia film about how terrible everything was instead of the doughy-eyed, rose-tinted, like, ooh, how nice.
It was all shit. I mean, it was all shit. It was, I think people forget that the 80s had, you know, terrible wars, terrible famine in certain places, political uncertainty.
Yeah.
90s, your Gulf War, your Kuwait War, like it's always been crap.
Oh yeah, no, I agree with that.
But you know, I guess people want to hold on to certain ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic again to talk to you again.
No, this is a blast. We'll keep in contact. But yeah, I think the nostalgic thing for entertainment media is definitely valid. But otherwise, as a decade, you're like, yeah, you realize there was a lot of bad here as well in the real world happenings. But yeah, I think if you think about it that way, then there's some mileage. But you know, if you look at it like wars and politics and all that kind of stuff, yeah, it's a mixture of all of that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But no, this was a blast, Brian. Thank you.
It was. All right, I will chat to you soon. You give me a message if there's anything you want to do, talk about, or whatever. And
But much like Tim Burton, if it's a role I think you'll be interested in, I'll throw you a message. Although there are some other people, we'll give everyone a fair chance.
Give everyone a chance. Give everyone a chance.
Yeah.
All right, my dude. I'll see you soon. Yeah.
I'll see you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye now.